The Ark of the Covenant was a significant and sacred object in ancient Israelite worship, deeply intertwined with the religious and spiritual life of the people. It was a piece of furniture housed in the Jewish tabernacle, a movable sanctuary that served as the dwelling place of God's presence while the Israelites wandered in the wilderness for 40 years following their exodus from Egypt, after their settlement in the Promised Land. Under the leadership of Joshua, the tabernacle was set up in Shiloh and remained there for many years. The Ark of the Covenant was placed in the most sacred area of the tabernacle, signifying its immense importance. The tabernacle itself was a carefully designed structure with specific materials and coverings that symbolized various aspects of divine holiness and protection. It had 4 distinct coverings. The outermost layer was made of seal skins, followed by ram skins dyed red, a layer of goat hair, and the innermost covering of fine white linen. The entire structure was divided into 2 compartments, the Holy Place and the Most Holy Place, also called the Holy of Holies. The Most Holy Place housed only the Ark of the Covenant, which was considered the very throne of God among his people. The Ark itself was a rectangular wooden box overlaid with pure gold, crafted according to precise instructions given to Moses by God. Within the Ark were 3 significant items: the 2 stone tablets inscribed with the 10 Commandments, a golden pot filled with manna, a reminder of God's provision for Israel in the wilderness, and Aaron's rod that miraculously budded, symbolizing God's chosen priesthood. The Ark was covered with a golden lid known as the mercy seat, on which 2 cherubim angelic figures were placed facing each other with their wings outstretched and touching. Between these cherubim, a supernatural, radiant light manifested, signifying the very presence of God. According to Old Testament law, the Ark was to be handled with extreme care and reverence. It was never to be touched directly by human hands. Instead, it had rings on its sides through which wooden poles were inserted, allowing certain members of the Levite tribe, the Kohathites, to carry on their shoulders. Whenever the Ark was to be moved, the priest would first cover it with special cloths to shield it from the eyes of the people. These instructions were strictly given to preserve the sanctity of the Ark and prevent any irreverence toward God's presence. Despite its sacred nature, the Ark of the Covenant played a notable role in Israel's history, including times when it was mishandled or misused. One such instance occurred when the Israelites won a battle against the Philistines. Believing that bringing the Ark into the battlefield would guarantee them victory, they took it without divine instruction. However, rather than securing a win, they suffered a devastating defeat, and the Ark was captured by the Philistines. This loss was a severe blow to Israel, as the Ark was not only a religious artifact, but a tangible representation of God's presence and power. The Philistines placed a captured Ark in the temple of their deity, Dagon, as a supposed sign of their God's triumph over Israel's God. However, the following morning, they discovered that the statue of Dagon had fallen face down before the Arkansas, thinking it was merely an accident. They set the idol upright again. Yet the next day, Dagon was found once more on the ground, this time with his head and hands broken off, lying at the threshold of the temple. This ominous event, coupled with the plagues of tumors and an infestation of mice that struck the Philistines, convinced them that keeping the Ark was bringing disaster upon them. Seeking relief, they decided to return it to Israel. They placed the Ark on a new cart, hitched it to 2 cows, and sent it toward the Israelite town of Beth-Shemesh. Upon its return, the people of Beth-Shemesh rejoiced, but in their excitement, some men looked inside the Ark, directly violating God's command. As a result, at least 70 men died, reinforcing the lesson that the Ark was not to be treated casually. Realizing the seriousness of handling such a sacred object, the people of Beth-Shemesh arranged for the Ark to be taken to the home of Abinadab, where his son Eleazar was appointed to guard it. The Ark remained there for 20 years, largely removed from public life and worship. Years later, King David sought to restore Israel's worship and bring the Ark to Jerusalem, the center of Israel's religious and political life. Wanting to honor God, he arranged for the Ark's transportation in a grand procession. However, instead of following the biblical instructions for carrying the Ark, David and his people placed it on a new cart, just as the Philistines had done. While they celebrated joyfully, this method of transport was a direct violation of God's command. During the journey, the oxen pulling the cart stumbled, and Uzzah, one of Abinadab's sons, instinctively reached out to steady the ark inside. The moment he touched it, he was struck dead. This shocking event deeply troubled David, making him temporarily abandon his plan. He left the ark at the house of Obed-Edom, a Levite, where it remained for 3 months. During this time, Obed-Edom and his household experienced great blessings, which reaffirmed the ark's significance and God's power. Determined to correct his mistake, David studied the proper procedures for moving the ark inside. When he attempted to transport again, he ensured that Levites carried it using poles, as God had commanded. This time, the journey was successful, and the ark was placed in a special tent David had prepared for it in Jerusalem. The return of the ark signified a revival of true worship and a renewed focus on God's presence among the Israelites. The history of the Ark of the Covenant offers profound lessons about God's holiness, the importance of obedience, and the need for reverence and worship. One of the key takeaways is that knowing God's commands is not enough. We must actively follow them. David, though he had good intentions, initially failed to transport the ark correctly, which led to severe consequences. However, once he aligned his actions with God's instructions, he was able to restore proper worship in Israel. The ark also serves as a reminder of the importance of respecting what is sacred. The Israelites, the Philistines, and even David learned through difficult experiences that treating holy things casually or irreverently leads to dire consequences. Additionally, the story of the ark teaches us to appreciate and utilize God's blessings wisely, dedicating our time, energy, and resources to serving Him in the way He desires. Ultimately, the Ark of the Covenant was more than just a golden box. It was a powerful symbol of God's presence and authority. Through its history, we gain insights into how God interacts with His people, emphasizing faith, obedience, and reverence. Although the ark itself is no longer physically present, its spiritual lessons remain relevant for all who seek to honor God in their lives.